saying Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist, says the government's buying bullets for civil unrest. All it is 174,000 rounds. What's the big deal? Then they had, the heads of law enforcement colleges going, we need the 174,000. This is quite moderate. You talk about manipulation. 1.4 billion since last November. This year so far, it was $1 billion. 200 million last year, $1 billion so far this year. Now they just purchased last week. This is official links to the federal government's own websites. 200 million more of match-grade sniper ammo, the most expensive stuff you can get. A large portion of it was. I mean, they are no expenses being spared. But the point is that this is very, very serious, obviously. And the way they countered us, and now 200 million more, folks, we're talking 1.6 billion since last November. That's 1,200 million. No, 400 million just this year. And the numbers are just staggering. 1.6 billion, 1.4 billion this year. My head is spinning right now. DHS purchases 200 million more rounds of ammunition. Additional purchases include bullets designed for snipers, 308. We have got to get this out to everybody because the article has got where the Army admits they're preparing for civil unrest, re-education centers, all of it. I mean, it's all proven. And this is the evidence of a massive, covert, militarized, paramilitary arms buildup against we, the people. This is what's going on. And it's such a big deal that they would respond to us in the last month. 2 weeks ago was the biggest fit where there were literally over 500 articles in one day in mainstream news. I mean, I couldn't even keep track of them. I would just see a headline, duplicate it, and put it in the search engine. It would say, 500 of one article from the Associated Press published in other newspapers and TV stations. I mean, it's incalculable, probably, to go out and find out everywhere this went. And we had listeners call in and say on air, oh, yeah, I came into work, and we had been talking about the 1.4 billion bullets, and then, the guys I work with here at the National Guard said, it's okay, it's only 174,000. That guy Alex is wrong. People are buying it. They're buying it. Just like we had an article about drones being used all over the country with links, the media picked one of our links that was manned aircraft spying on farmers and discredited the whole thing, saying, oh, there's no drones watching you, even though there were all the links where they were admitting it. Even though Homeland Security in the article said we're going to use them for public safety and are using them to, quote, spy on you. So this is the type of stuff that's going on here. They are really worried about Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com helping get our articles out and talk radio as well. Because if we can have a discussion and make this a national story and make a debate about it be a national story of why are you buying 1.6 billion rounds of ammo again, that is now close to 12 times any previous record purchase. To give you an idea, in fact, Watson's working on a story on this. That's more ammo than the Department of Defense has bought in the last year. In fact, the article will break down how much more. It's quite a bit more. I mean, this is a full-on arms buildup against us. And it's hundreds of armored vehicles purchased every few months. Thousands of tanks, you've seen that in the news, being deployed in different areas of the country. The old Bradleys and others are being cached all over. Hundreds of mobile armored checkpoints and interrogation wagons so they can pull you out of your car and drag you off. I mean, this is scary. They're giving state police face scanning units to put people into the face scan database at highway checkpoints. That's in the news. The Department of Defense is rolling out with Brigade Homeland. None of this is just Alex Jones going to an urban warfare drill 15 years ago and shooting video of Marines training to take your guns and admitting it was for America. And back then, people weren't ready to see the truth. And so they just said, oh, those must be fake Marines you hired. That, the Coronado amphibious attack ship coming into San Francisco. That must be fake. And the helicopters, yeah. And my friend Richard Linklater, the director, he saw the film. And he was talking about how he'd shown it to people, and they were saying, oh, this can't be real. And he was laughing, saying this would cost $40, $50 million. And still you couldn't fake it. Of course it was real. It was in the newspapers that the invasion drill was happening. But back then, people still, even though my film had CNN clips admitting they were having the takeover and showed newspaper covers along with my video, people still said it's not real. Because it was Marines training to come in your house, take your guns, and put you in a FEMA camp. Now, we better have a discussion about this. Because I've been telling you, it's not about al-Qaeda. They work for the globalists. That's now confirmed, in triplicate, totally admitted. They hope you don't look into it. It's hiding in plain view. All you got to do is have an IQ above room temperature to understand this. People are mentally lazy nowadays, and they do not want to look into this information. Well, you better look into it instead of just sitting there saying, I'm trying to scare people or making this stuff up. I'm sick of that fake meme they put out that I'm trying to scare people. You know what? I think you're like me, that you want to know about this going on. When I tell you about the UN and foundations openly running the toll road companies and openly taking over our local governments all over the country, when I tell you about military trying to take your guns, I think that you're men and women who've got a spinal cord and got a heart and got guts. But it isn't even guts. When you realize what enslavement's like, it is not guts that makes you stand up against this. Quite frankly, it's the opposite, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason we have freedom is because our ancestors demanded it and fought for it. I do not want to be a slave. I'm afraid of being a slave. I'm afraid of letting this scum take over. And people need to choose a side right now. The time for playing games is over. They teach the police the Founding Fathers are bad. We've been occupied. Now they're getting ready to shut the media off. They're getting ready to start arresting us. And I feel sorry for those of you that are going to collaborate with these people.
And they see you as being wrong. That's very different. When people are passionate about what they believe in, they become a very difficult enemy to beat. Who was the first terrorist organization in the United States? Who?
Founding Fathers.
Founding Fathers. You mean Thomas Jefferson?
Oh, yeah.
You mean George Washington?
Oh, yes.
Paul Revere?
Yeah.
These guys right here, let me ask you something. Did they try to scare people?
Oh, yeah.
They tried to intimidate the British. Did they use acts of violence? Your founding fathers, my founding fathers, were involved in acts of terrorism against British officials because they systematically had British officials assassinated. The guys who we call our founding fathers, George Washington, Mr. Honest, who cut down a cherry tree and admitted it, is the same guy who signed death orders, if you will, on members of the British government, the British Crown, who they wanted to eliminate because politically they had influence in certain pockets of the United States, at that time the 13 colonies, and they wanted to divide and conquer.
We have been totally infiltrated and taken over. Look at how the government legalizes all the illegal aliens and makes them above the law. Look at how the government publicly does everything they can to destroy this country. Look at how the system throws the book at you, the citizen, because you're the enemy. They won't hire cops now with over 100 IQ because they know the smart ones always get out and wake up. They're trained that we're the enemy. The enemy. The enemy. The takeover is almost complete, ladies and gentlemen.